For the 6th season in a row, Walters is the official bar of the Nats Chat podcast, located across the street from the ballpark, just off South Capitol Street.
Now the Brewers are anticipating Garcia to bunt here, but I think he swings away with Bibas and Millis on deck. I think this is a guy you want swinging the bat here against the righty with a big fastball.
He's 1 for 2 against him, a single in the past, but they are in at the corners. McGill sets. He's not showing bunt and hits one up the middle, a base hit into center field. Abrams around third, coming home, he'll score. The throw will be lobbed into second. Weimer around second, goes to third. Right you were, Dave Jagler. A first pitch swing and a shot up the middle for Luis Garcia Jr. He drives in his 8th run of the season. And the Nationals have the lead here in the top of the 9th inning with runners on first and third and nobody out. It's the Nationals 4 and the Brewers 3. Runners lead first and second. And McGee delivers. Wood swings and lines into right field. That's going to get down and go to the fence. Rounding third is Bibas coming home. Millis to third will stop there as James Wood is into second with a double and an RBI, his 11th of the year and his 4th hit of the game. 2 doubles, 2 singles. He's 4 for 5. 4 runs home here in the 9th inning for the Nationals. It's now Washington 7 and Milwaukee 3.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. The Nats on Friday night begin a 3-game series at the Milwaukee Brewers. One of the most famous teams in Brewers history is the 1982 Brewers. That team was known as Harvey's Wallbangers in honor of the manager, Harvey Keene, and the team's ample power. James Wood would have fit in quite well with Harvey's Wallbangers, and the Nats offense on Friday night was Harvey's Wallbangers-esque. A 7-3 win at the Brewers in a game in which the Nats overcame a 3-2 7th inning deficit with a run in the top of the 7th and 4 runs in the top of the 9th. More good offense from the Nats. They in MLB's 2026 regular season improved to 5-8. You on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate this podcast and write reviews of the podcast. 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. Positive reviews are greatly appreciated. Thank you for doing the ratings and the reviews. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Good to have you with us. We had a rather mixed outing from Jake Irvin. We'll get to that. We had 4 scoreless innings from the Nats bullpen. We'll absolutely get to that. But Mark, the Nats offense on Friday night off pretty much getting shut down in the Nats previous game, the 6-1 loss to the St. Louis Cardinals at Nationals Park on Wednesday, was back to being good. Power hitting in the form of 4 doubles, but also some small ball in that 4-run 9th inning. So good offense, but the offense was good via multiple styles.
So, you mentioned the 1982 Brewers and the Harvey's Wallbangers, and there were aspects of this game that felt like that. But I'll tell you what, that top of the 9th was more like the 2025 Brewers with the small ball and the execution of the fundamentals. I mean, the Nats out-Brewered the Brewers in that 9th inning. That was a remarkable sequence of events. This is a team that up until this game had attempted 1 bunt in their first 12 games this season. There was a sacrifice bunt by Jacob Young. And they bunted 3 times in the top of the 9th. And all 3 were not just successful, but on all 3, everybody was safe. Nobody was out on any of those bunts. That was a crazy sequence of events, not the kind of execution we're used to seeing from this team. I'm guessing deep down that's not necessarily the way Blake Butera tries to play baseball, but in this case, it worked perfectly. And you combine that with some very high exit velocities from James Wood, and you've got a big night at the plate for this team.
Yeah, the 4-run 9th really was something. Like Mark said, 3 bunts, officially a bunt single and 2 sacrifice bunts. And this was largely coming against Trevor McGill. And it was interesting. Nats manager Blake Butera, during his post-game session with reporters, said, when we bunt, it's going to be in that kind of a spot against a high-leverage reliever. You can do some damage in a spot like that. And sure enough, the Nats did. I mean, also in that inning was a leadoff hit by pitch by C.J. Abrams. There was a good-looking first-pitch single by Luis Garcia Jr. And then there was an RBI double by James Wood. The 9th inning was a lot of fun to watch, but James Wood in this game was thrilling to watch. He is on fire right now. It is almost comical to think back to just a few days ago, the discussion of Wood being being off to a slow start. His slow start has become a white hot start. James Wood in this game as the Nats starting right fielder and number one batter, 4 for 5 with an RBI double, another double, and 2 singles. And he put on a show when it came to exit velocities per StatCast. So Wood in the Nats 2-run first, a leadoff full count double to deep center field. That double, an exit velocity of 116.3 miles per hour. Wood in the top of the 6th, a leadoff opposite field single into left field on a 1-2 pitch. That single had an exit velocity of 105.3 miles per hour. Wood in the top of the 8th, a leadoff opposite field single to left center field. The single, an exit velocity of 98.7 miles per hour. And then Wood in that 4-run 9th, RBI double to right field to put the Nats up 7-3. The double, an exit velocity of 115.3 miles per hour. He is destroying baseballs right now. And his OPS is at 930. Again, so much for the slow start.
I don't think we're going to have to talk about him going to AAA anytime soon or moving down in the order at all. He is standing at the plate with a tremendous amount of confidence and swagger right now. I don't know about you, but by the time we got to the 9th inning and you already had that sequence of events with the bunts, and here comes Wood with a chance to turn it into a really big inning, was there any doubt in your mind that he was going to hit the ball really hard and likely drive in some more runs? It just felt inevitable at that point. And that's the highest compliment you can give to a hitter, when you just know that he's going to come through, and not just with a little, blooper, but he's going to hit the ball really hard and find a gap or a hole or even hit it over the fence. He is so locked in right now. It's been amazing to see that transformation. There were little hints of it there when he wasn't getting the results, but he said he felt good. He was starting to hit the ball hard, had some bad luck. And boy, since he flipped that switch, it's been remarkable. Tremendous contact, still showing the patience to draw walks. The strikeouts are way down. And right now, if you're an opposing manager and an opposing pitching staff, you are fearing James Wood when he comes up to bat.
And him batting in that number 1 spot is looking just fine. The talk of, well, maybe he shouldn't bat in the 1 spot. No, maybe he should. He's the Nats' best hitter, and he is just destroying pitching right now. 13 games, 15 hits. 9 of the 15 hits are extra base hits. He has 4 home runs and 5 doubles. His slugging percentage up to .571. His on-base percentage at .359. But it wasn't just James Wood who stood out in this game. The Nats for the game offensively, 7 runs, 11 hits, which were 4 doubles and 7 singles, 2 walks, 5 for 11 with runners in scoring position. C.J. Abrams continues his very good start to this season. He is the Nats starting shortstop and number 5 batter, 2 for 3, RBI double, single, and a hit by pitch. Abrams in the Nats 2-run first, a 2-out RBI double to the right center field gap to put the Nats up 2-0. Abrams in the top of the 4th, a 1-out single to right field. That single had an exit velocity of 109 miles per hour, so Abrams got in on the exit velocity act. I mentioned the Luis Garcia Jr. single. He is the Nats starting DH and number 7 batter, 1 for 4 with an RBI single. Garcia in the Nats 4-run 9th, tie-breaking first pitch RBI single up the middle for a 4-3 Nats lead. Curtis Mead got in on this here. He is the Nats starting first baseman and number 2 batter, 1 for 5 RBI single. He in the Nats 2-run first, RBI single into center on a 1-2 pitch for a 1-0 Nats lead. That single had an exit velocity of 102.4 miles per hour. And how about Jacob Young off the bench? A 1-run 7th for the Nats. Jacob Young, a pinch 2-out opposite field RBI double to right field to tie the game at 3, despite Young having been down at 1.02. Now, he got thrown out in his attempted advance to third base, but the pinch hitting strategy of Blake Butera paying off in that spot. And I'll say this about Jacob Young. We've lamented his lack of offense. Jacob Young is slugging .438. He has 3 doubles and a homer. So some pop from Jacob Young so far.
Yes, this was only the 6th pinch hitting appearance of his career. It's been 2 per season each of the last 3 years, and his first hit as a pinch hitter. And boy, it was a big one. There's another conversation to be had here about pinch hitting for Keibert Ruiz. This has happened a couple of times now. Keibert Ruiz is not playing well in a variety of ways. We'll stick to the positives here because it's such a good night for the Nats, but something to keep an eye on and to think about, just the fact that he did pinch hit for Ruiz, and it worked out perfectly. And then Drew Millis contributed with one of the bunts in the 9th. But I like the way that Young is hitting the ball. He is hitting for some power. He's really increased his bat speed. That was something they worked on a lot with him in the offseason prior to reporting to spring training, and he's seeing some results from that. And, you saw here how he doesn't necessarily have to be in the lineup to contribute to them. He can do some other things. He can come off the bench, whether that's for defense, in this case, pinch hitting. Good to see. I mean, you just had production all over the place, contributions all over the place. There were, even in those early innings when they didn't have a whole lot going on, that first inning rally was good. They just had some good at-bats. You felt like, you had guys like Brady House turned an 0-2 count into a full count walk. You had a lot of good quality stuff like that along the way. And I know they had an off night on Wednesday against the Cardinals, but they just didn't do anything offensively. What we saw here is more like what we saw for really a majority of the first 2 weeks of the season. And the more they do this, the longer they do this, the more you think that it can be sustainable for them to have a deep and productive lineup where, these aren't flukish. They're hitting the ball hard. They're working good counts. They're kind of playing smart baseball in a lot of ways. It's really been a nice thing to see here in the first 13 games of the season.
And the Nats in this game, you talk about like the good process, 10 exit velocities, each of at least 100 miles per hour. I mean, the Nats hit balls really hard in this game. So good to see that.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
He's hit in 8 of his last 9 with all 4 homers and swings and drives the next pitch to deep right center field. And that one will drop in for a hit. It's cut off by the center fielder Mitchell. Abrams trying for second, and the throw will be offline, not in time. It's a double for Abrams as Meade trots in from third. And CJ with his 15th run batted into the year. A double for Abrams. It's the Nationals 2 and the Brewers nothing.
You mentioned the walk by Brady House. So Brady House in this game as the Nats starting third baseman and number 4 batter, 0 for 3 with the walk, but it was a heck of a walk. It came in the top of the 6th. Brady House drew a 1-out, 7-pitch walk. He went from being down 0-2 to drawing the walk. And Mark wrote a really good piece about Brady House on NatsJournal.com. And as you noted on X, that plate appearance emblematic of the improvement when it comes to Brady House and what he's doing at the plate these days.
Right. You could see the Brewers' strategy based on their scouting report from last year for him, which is throw him breaking balls out of the zone and he's going to chase, especially down and away. And they got ahead of him 0-2 and they kept trying to get him on that outside corner and he wouldn't bite. He hung in there, he fouled off a few, and then he wound up drawing the walk. And even later in the game, he struck out in his last at bat, but they were like borderline pitches and he took strike 3. And I know you say, well, you don't want to do that, but I thought it was actually a good sign that his mind is going to take a pitch, especially a breaking ball, take it before thinking too aggressively going after it. He's done such a nice job of improving that plate discipline. And I thought it was interesting when I interviewed both him and then Blake Butera the other day to write that story. Butera brought up the Trajectarc pitching machine that they have now and said that it's been especially important for House. And what I liked about it is he described, it's not just when you stand in to face that thing. And for those who don't know, it's a high-tech pitching machine in which you can punch up any big league pitcher and it shows an image of him and the ball will come out of, where it normally would and throw his arsenal. So it's as close as you can get to simulating batting against real big league pitchers. And what Butera was talking about with House, it's not so much about trying to make sure that he's swinging good pitches and making good contact off that. It's about taking pitches. He's just seeing a lot coming out of the hand of that simulated pitcher and seeing which pitches are out of the zone and knowing not to swing at them. And you can see that translate in games where he is not being overly aggressive. He's picking up on the breaking ball, the spin of it, and saying, that's not going to be a strike. I'm going to take it. And so it's a funny thing. You think, hey, you're taking batting practice or off a pitching machine. It's all about good contact, good swings. No, in this case, it's actually about good takes and standing in there and not swinging the bat.
Yeah, it's almost like having this trajectory arc is a good thing. And it's almost like maybe the Nats should have had it sooner, you know? I mean, this is unbelievable when you think about it, right? The Nats for years did not have trajectory arc, either because ownership wouldn't pay for it or because Mike Rizzo didn't fight hard enough to get it. Here it is year one of the Nats having this thing, and one of the Nats' most well-regarded prospects clearly is benefiting from it. And it's like, why wasn't this thing in place sooner? But, you know, to spin it in a positive direction, you wonder who else might be benefiting from it and what other good could come from it. But so good to see Brady House doing well. And, you know, I was thinking about this earlier on Friday. Dylan Cruz should be watching Brady House, and Dylan Cruz should be saying to himself, that should be me. What this guy is doing should be me. How do I make that me? Because House, like Cruz, well-regarded Nats prospect. House, like Cruz, underwhelming offensively coming into this season at the major league level. But House, unlike Cruz, thriving at the major league level right now. And as Cruz is toiling at AAA, I feel like Brady House is a nice model for Dylan Cruz of, okay, this can be me. How did Brady House get better? How can I get better? How can I be like Brady House?
Yeah, it's a great point. And, you know, a lot of Cruz's issues last year in the spring are similar things to what Brady House dealt with. Swinging at too many pitches out of the zone, you know, overly aggressive at times, not making good quality contact. You know, the good news is my understanding is they have one of these machines in Rochester now. So they really, one of the big emphasis for the new front office was to make sure that whatever they're doing in DC, they're also doing at AAA. In Rochester. And so they have the same number of coaches, the same positions, the same equipment they're trying to have. And so the idea being that when a guy gets sent down or when they get called up, it feels like a fully natural transition and nothing has really changed except obviously the stadium that you're playing in. So yeah, the hope would be that he can pick up on some of these things and maybe be better off for it. And it gives you hope. We've been talking all along about the new regime and what are the signs that tell you that things are working. It's not just about them acquiring better players. It's not just about their star players being great. It's about the guys who showed promise in the past, but just weren't quite there. It's about them taking that step forward and improving as players. And we've seen that with House already. You hope you see it with more guys down the road. That to me is going to be one of the best signs of what this new, both the coaching staff and the front office is able to do to help players they already have here get better. Guys who obviously have talent, but for one reason or another were not performing up to the top of their abilities.
The Nats, as we are recording this installment of the podcast, number 4 in MLB in team OPS at 773. The Nats starting pitcher for this win at the Brewers on Friday night was Jake Irvin. He allowed 3 runs in 5 innings. He, in the bottom of the first, allowed 3 runs. He did then retire 13 of the final 16 batters he faced. There's a lot to take in with this outing from Jake Irvin. So he only gave up 2 hits. They were a home run and a single. He issued a whopping 5 walks, but he also recorded 5 strikeouts. He, over the 5 innings, threw a lot of pitches and a lot of balls, 100 pitches, 55 strikes, 45 balls. Irvin, in the bottom of the first, allowed 3 runs on a leadoff 4-pitch walk of Bryce Terang. Irvin then recorded back-to-back strikeouts, but then issued a 2-out 4-pitch walk of Garrett Mitchell, and then gave up a 2-out full-count 3-run homer by Jake Bauers on a moonshot to right field to put the Brewers up 3-2. Despite Irvin having had Bauers down at 1.12, the homer went a projected 428 feet per Statcast. Also, Irvin, in that bottom of the first, issued a 2-out walk of Luis Rengifo, despite him having been down at 1.12. But then Irvin was good the rest of the outing. And so this ended up being such a Jekyll and Hyde performance by Jake Irvin. The strikeouts good, how he ended the outing really good. But that bottom of the first was so disappointing. The Nats go up 2-0. And then Irvin takes the mound and issues a 4-pitch walk. And you're like, here we go again with Nats pitching right in these walks. Then Irvin generates back-to-back strikeouts to say, okay, here we go. Then comes another walk, then comes a 3-run homer, and then comes a walk after that. So a lot to process with Jake Irvin.
That first inning was just agony, wasn't it? I mean, say the worst thing you can do is walk the leadoff hitter on 4 pitches, right? Like, it doesn't get any worse than that. Well, except for the 2-out walk. Those will kill you too. And he managed to get them both in the same inning, plus another 2-out walk after the 3-run homer. I mean, you pick your poison there. every event that you could not want to have happen as a pitcher happened to Jake Irvin in that inning. You're staked to an early lead, so you're trying for the shutdown inning. You walk the leadoff batter on 4 pitches, a 2-out walk to extend the inning, a 3-run homer, absolute killer, another walk to extend the inning. I had thought there's no way he's going to get through 5. Or if he does, it's because they have to push him to 100 pitches, whether he gives up 6, 7 runs or however many it is. They're going to have no choice but to push him. The fact that he somehow got through 5 and didn't give up anything else, I will give him credit for that. He hung in there. He kept him in the game. So I don't want to dismiss that, the value of that. But come on. That first inning was pretty much as disastrous as it could get. And for a guy who his whole mantra this year is supposed to be, I'm going right after hitters. I'm not going to nibble. I'm not going to worry about how far I go into the game. I mean, that was a textbook example of what not to do. And we understand he gives up home runs. Okay. That may just be part of his game. But if you're attacking hitters and you give up a solo homer or even a 2-run homer, okay, you live with that. To give up a 3-run homer where that's the only hit of the whole inning, absolute killer. I'm not there in Milwaukee, so I don't know how Irvin responded to all this. I'm sure he's happy the team won. I'm sure he's taking at least a little bit of solace in the way that he finished it out and he gave his team a chance. But deep down, he should not feel good at all about the way he started this game. And if I'm Blake Butera and Simon Matthews and Paul Taboni, I'm watching this guy carefully and I'm saying this can't continue. If it does, you've got to, consider a short leash there. It's the exact opposite of what you need from a guy like Jake Irvin right now.
He is striking guys out. The strikeouts are up. Irvin over 3 starts this regular season, 14 innings, 8 walks, not good, but 16 strikeouts in 14 innings. So the Ks are up. If he can sustain that and, stay at averaging more than 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, that's good. I mean, that's significant improvement for him. He's got to work on the other stuff, but I wonder if the strikeouts being up, is that just a small sample size thing, or if, in fact, this is different and maybe he is now more of a strikeout pitcher.
Well, he was doing that in spring training, and I think that's why a lot of people were encouraged coming into the season. So that's good, but that's, in theory, a sign of being aggressive and trusting that your stuff is good enough to get swings and misses. And I think that's where he's falling apart here, is that when you start nibbling around the zone or you can't command, you're defeating the purpose. The stuff is obviously good enough to get 5 strikeouts in 5 innings. Throw it over the plate, or at least closer to the plate. Limit the walks, and you might find that you can actually have some success. Yeah, you're going to give up the occasional hit and maybe a home run, but you're going to have the ability to strike out batters, and you're not going to give them any free passes. Make them earn it. That's got to be the mantra for Irvin right now.
And the right-hander kicks and delivers out of the stretch. Swinging a ground ball right side. Fielded by B-Boss. Short flip on to the first baseman Meade, and a Curly W's in the books here at American Family Field in Milwaukee. A Curly W in the books. It's the Nationals 7, the Brewers 3.
So Jake Irvin did as he did in this win on Friday night, and then the Nats bullpen took over, and the Nats bullpen was good. I don't know how often we're going to have a conversation like this season, so let's enjoy this. 4 Nats relievers combined for 4 scoreless innings. Paxton Schultz, he tossed a scoreless bottom of the 6th despite giving up a leadoff single and despite Keibert Ruiz committing a 1-out catcher's interference error. Cieno Perez, he tossed a scoreless bottom of the 7th. P.J. Poulin, a perfect bottom of the 8th, and Clayton Better, a perfect bottom of the 9th. Did face the Brewers' bottom 3 batters, but still perfection from Poulin in the 8th, perfection from Better in the 9th. The Nats score the 4 runs in the top of the 9th, give Better cushion in the bottom of the 9th. Not that you wanted Better to allow a run, but if ever there was a time for a Nats reliever to allow a run, you would have said, okay, fine. And instead, what do you get? A perfect inning. When the Nats have needed perfection or near perfection from relievers, they don't get it in a spot like this. When you don't necessarily need that, you get it, but that was good. This bullpen desperately needed an outing like this, and to see 4 guys combined for 4 scoreless innings, bravo.
Not just 4 scoreless innings, but 4 walkless innings. That was huge after all the struggles in the homestand with the walks, for the fact that they threw strikes. Irvin walked 5, and then the bullpen walked 0. You also had, over the final 3 innings, not a single ball was hit out of the infield. Everything was on the ground. That's good stuff, too. Hopefully confidence booster for a lot of them to have that happen in what was, up until the ninth inning, a tight, close ball game. And so these were high leverage spots against a good Brewers lineup. I hope that they all came out of this feeling good about the way they pitched, and that maybe that can actually translate into future success, and this isn't just a one-off in this game.
And to the point about the no walks, 56 total pitches thrown by Nats relievers in this game. 40 were strikes. 40 out of the 56 pitches were strikes. You'll love to see something like that. So the Nats get game one in this series. Saw a lot of Brewers relievers in this game. Number one, the Brewers ended up using 5 relievers in this game. So, if you are a subscriber to the idea of, a team in game one seeing a lot of the opposing team's relief pitching, that can be beneficial over the final games of the series. Perhaps the Nats can benefit from that in this series. And we'll see if the Nats can get themselves a series win. We have game 2 Saturday night at 7:10. Foster Griffin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Will he have more pitches used or innings pitched? I don't know, but hopefully the numbers are the same because he's been using 7 different pitches. So 7 innings would be nice. But so far, so good from Foster Griffin. So I'm excited to see what he does here in this game, too.
Yeah, I was just going to say 7-7 sounds like a good mantra for him. 7 different types of pitches over 7 innings. I think they'll take that every time. As he's admitted himself, he's taking advantage right now of the fact that nobody's in the big leagues has seen him in several years because he was over in Japan. And he knows that over time, there's going to start to be a little bit more of a book on him. He's going to have to adjust to that. But he seems like the type who relishes that challenge and wants to try to outthink the opposition. So I will be very interested to see what he can do. Boy, it would be nice to get 6 innings at least from their starter. Yeah, it was a great night for the bullpen, but you'd love to give at least a few of those guys the night off. And, as far as the Brewers pitching staff is concerned, I agree with you. Getting to see that many relievers in the first game of the series, that pays dividends. By the way, the Brewers used an opener in this game, and it backfired. Aaron Ashby was in there to face the lefties, and the lefties got to him for those couple early runs, and it kind of got lost in the shuffle because of Irvin giving the runs right back in the bottom of the first. But the Nats handled that opener situation very well and, took out a pretty good left-handed reliever early in the game and gave themselves a quick lead because of it.
All right, we have a few shout-outs we want to deliver right now. First of all, a shout-out to a Nats super fan and a longtime Nats Chat listener and supporter, Jamie Coppersmith. Happy birthday, Jamie, from your friends Jit and Tom, and from your friends here at Nats Chat. Jamie recently had a milestone birthday. We're not being told what the milestone was. We're just being told that Jamie had a milestone birthday. But Jamie, keep slugging in everything you do, as you always have done. Jamie Coppersmith, happy birthday to you. And happy birthday to the creator of this podcast, the owner of this podcast, the executive producer of this podcast, the great Tim Shovers. He, too, is celebrating a milestone birthday. He is beginning his age 40 season. So, Tim, we say happy birthday. We say thank you for all that you do, and we hope you have a wonderful birthday.
And how's Tim celebrating his 40th birthday? Well, he did go out, I'm told, on Friday night. Did not watch the game. He's not with us right now as we're recording. But at some point when we're done recording, and it's 11:30 p.m. on the East Coast here, he's going to log in, he's going to get our audio, and he's going to spend another hour to 90 minutes editing and perfecting this episode so that you can all enjoy it on Saturday morning. That is a true grinder right there. Tim is what makes this whole podcast work, and it's possible. Al and I just get on and talk to each other for 30, 45 minutes. Tim then takes over and stays up all night making sure this episode sounds a lot better than the two of us do when we're just talking and trying to record this and keeping our thoughts together. So a very, very happy 40th birthday to Tim. Enjoy your 40s, Tim. As someone who is almost out of his 40s now, I wish I could remember what that was like to be looking ahead to my my 5th decade and not thinking about my 6th decade, which sadly is coming up later this summer.
Well, all three of us now are in the same decade. We're all in our 40s, so I feel like maybe we should do something to commemorate that. But yeah, Tim is great. This podcast was the idea of Tim. Like, this is Tim's baby, and Paul Taboni is the head of Nats baseball operations. Tim is the head of Nats Chat podcast operations. Like, Tim is the guy running this thing. So happy birthday, Tim, and hope you have a great birthday, and hope Jamie Coppersmith has a great birthday. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us, natschatpodcast@gmail.com, including if you would like to sponsor the show. We would always love to have you on board. Contact Tim. Again, that email address is natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Millis bunts back toward the mound, and McGill has this one. Underhand toss to the plate is not in time. Contreras took the throw with his foot on the plate and didn't even attempt to tag. The run scores, and the Nationals lead at 6-3.